Hello, RWorld, and welcome back to RWorld Talk. We sent out a survey for you guys to fill out on exactly what you wanted to get out of RWorld Talk. And two of the top things was you wanted to hear more from our membership, and you wanted to hear more about luxury real estate. So we put those two together. We're going to kill two birds with one stone here today, and we've got Billy Nash joining us. Thank you, Billy.
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Everything's great.
Fantastic. Well, last time we saw you, you were on our South Florida Real Estate Summit with Josh Flagg from $1 Million Listing. What's new in your world? Are there any new projects going on? Any new plans for the future?
So the timing of the podcast is pretty good about new projects because we actually have a new television show under development.
Okay.
And we just got back, for people that follow me on social media, they'll see I've been posting some things from different countries. And in November, we flew with a crew to 4 different locations in Europe and in Africa.
Okay.
And we started to film the beginnings of a new television show where I travel around the world, find the most spectacular real estate, and then talk about the stories behind the real estate. So dig deep into the community, the culture, the history, because every property tells a story.
Wow, fascinating. Okay. What channel is that going to be on?
So, of course, we have to go pitch it and sell it, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, realtors are salesmen, so we got to sell it.
Right.
So we'll go to Netflix, and we'll go to Amazon Prime, and we'll go to Apple, and we'll go to Discovery Channel, and we'll go to A&E, and we'll go to all the usual suspects, all the large streaming networks. We have a 5-time Emmy Award producer, showrunner that's in the show. I have 2 other executive producers, so that'll happen sometime in March or April. And William Morris Endeavor is representing me and the show. And hopefully we'll get it sold and it'll be on a streaming network sometime soon. So
wow.
So to be continued.
Congratulations. That's fantastic news.
Thanks.
Some of us may know your story, but many new agents that are watching the podcast might not know exactly how Billy Nash got started. So you were a private banker. Yes. You seem to seemingly transition overnight into the real estate luxury market. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you've harnessed from your banking career in order to contribute to your current successes?
Sure. So I started my career in 1992 is when I graduated from college, and then I immediately started working. I was a waiter throughout college, waiting on tables. And I had met someone that was in the banking industry and never knew he was a banker. And when I graduated, he knew that I served the quickest pancakes to him every Sunday morning. He said to me, when you graduate, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I would love to have an opportunity to be on Wall Street. Okay. And that was a dream of mine. I grew up in my mother's basement, single mom, me and my sister in Long Branch, New Jersey. And I just wanted to get an opportunity, right? Everything in life, you just look to get that opportunity.
Right.
Same thing with real estate. You're looking for the opportunity. So I got that opportunity and I focused. I never looked back. So I spent 22 years in that industry as a financial advisor with a specialty in bringing in investment banking deals.
Okay.
So I've always been around entrepreneurial people, ultra high net worth people. And one of the things that I've learned at a very young age is to be a good listener. And those things, rub off on you over time, and you kind of mold your career from those things that you've done early on. So even in this industry, whoever's listening, a lot of people might come from a different career,
right?
But use that as leverage for your career in real estate. So that's kind of what I did. I've always been entrepreneurial. That's one of the things I love about real estate. And I made the transition into this business 8 years ago.
Okay. And it's been a wild ride since you started here 8 years ago to reach the level that you have is absolutely incredible. Are you finding that a lot of your clientele are people who you've worked with in your past career?
Not necessarily. I think the first year out of the box, of course, and this is recommended to any real estate agent, of course you want to contact your sphere. Right. Everyone that you debate. I mean, sphere sounds like an old word. Yeah, everyone talks about sphere. Call everybody you know. Right. Let's keep it simple. Call everybody you know. It could be your doctor. It could be whatever. Let them know that you're in the business, and use some of the things in your past that you can leverage as experience that you have. You don't have to come out. I mean, I came out of the box, and my first listing was $32 million. Right, because I didn't look at things, as if to say there was these barriers of entry. I just came in like a wrecking ball, as one of the agents said, because that was Miley Cyrus's like #1 song the year before.
Yeah.
And they're like, Nash, you came in like a wrecking ball, because I just put on blinders and I said, I'm going to do this my way, like Frank Sinatra. Right. And I just focused. I did the right thing to my, did the right thing by my clients, which I always have done. And I just looked at it as an opportunity to grow an incredible business. So, that's kind of where, the way I've always thought, I always think, it's just, the sky's the limit. I still think like that today, so that's kind of what I did. I just focused. I still focus. I look at the businesses. There's opportunities every day that come across our desks.
Right.
And it's the way you harnessed that. How do you harness, your experience? And if you're not experienced, harness the energy that you have to grow your business.
Right.
I think that's super important. So, I just came in strong and I've consistently done business. And, my goal is to continue to grow my business, continue to help other agents, and be the best person I can be.
So when you're out there working that luxury market, is your marketing plan far different from the average agent that is selling neighborhood homes that aren't $32 million? Are you finding that you spend more time on social media? Do you still do the print advertising, the old school style of marketing, or is it really sphere-based and a lot of phone calls?
So I've always been a relationship-driven person. And for my business, I'm a relationship builder. I'm a very patient person when it comes to doing business. Of course, I want to close a deal. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I'm on your side of the table, we're going to get a deal done.
Right.
And then that's always my goal. But I drip, and I can I could say that to any agent that's listening. Sometimes you got to just, take a breath and think back at, I look at it like this. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right. So if you come out of the box, you think you're going to, you think you're going to do this massive deal the first week that you're in the business, you're setting yourself up for failure. Right. And if it happens, it happens. 90% of the time, it's not going to. But if you stay consistent with building your brand and keeping your eye on the prize, doing the right thing by your clients, good things will happen.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing, that reverberates in my mind all the time. Stick to your plan. Don't give up. And it'll happen for you, Yeah,
I think a lot of people in this business think that they can go out there and find somebody to work with, sell them a home, and it's just going to go like dominoes and you're going to have this thriving business. But you hit one thing, that it really is a marathon. And when you talk about that relationship-based business, we might meet somebody today that we're not selling a home to for 5 years. Maybe it's 10 years. But if we maintain constant contact and let them know at all times that you are the person that they should be contacting when it is their time, they'll end up telling their friends and family about you. Once you start that relationship, you'll end up getting business from other people. It may not be that person that you started working with in the beginning or tried to get that business from in the beginning. But certainly if they know that you're constantly giving them updates on what's happening in the market and the neighborhoods that they should be looking at and what their home is worth at all times, even if they're not looking to sell, people still want to know how much equity they have in that home. So I think that having them on some sort of a drip campaign or emailed newsletter, something that's letting them know what's happening with the market, maintains you as the expert at all times. So that way when they're ready to pop, they know who to call.
100%. For anybody that's listening to this podcast, you want to be the name that person thinks of when they're thinking about doing business.
Right.
And that could take time, right? So you stay loyal to them, you keep them updated on the market, you keep them up to changes that might be happening around the country, rules and regulations. And it's not always about real estate. And that's so important. I've said this before on my podcast. You can sell without selling. And that's important. If you stay around the hoop long enough, I promise you'll get a shot.
That couldn't have said it better myself. So you work with many high profile and really ultra-net high worth individuals. It's common for us to sometimes draw conclusions about who those individuals are. Who have you worked with during a transaction that you thought that you had completely figured out and then they surprised you in a really great way?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. I can't figure out any of them. They're all nuts. No, I'm only kidding. No, I'm only kidding. You know, one of the things that I love about real estate is the stories and the people, right? That's what makes it fun. For me, they're not transactions. They're little mini books, right? Every time you do a deal, it's like writing another chapter in a book of success.
Totally agree.
Right? So, and those chapters change. Like, think about it. Have you ever read a book with 100 chapters and every chapter's the same?
Nope.
Well, that book would suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, excuse my French. but at the end of the day, every deal you do is a story, right? So it's interesting, it's fun. So every client is different,
right?
You know, and trust me, I've had a lot of surprises. I mean, you know, I sold a property for.
Feel free to tell stories.
Yeah. So you know, I sold a property for the manager of the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
And he also was the manager for Michael Jackson, for Frank Sinatra. He was the biggest concert promoter in the world. And boy, he was a tough cookie. And you know. It was an interesting thing because I called him, you know, he was letting me stay in his compound when I was selling it. And I said, you know, because I would come down on the weekend to, you know, to show it and whatever. It was beautiful. And I set the record in Key Biscayne for one of the biggest sales ever. And I called him and I said, hey, Michael, I said, I'm coming down to, you know, for the weekend and, you know, I'm showing the property. He goes, unfortunately, you can't stay in the house this weekend because Barbara's in your room. And so I said, Barbara? Who the hell is Barbara? I mean, I'm married to Tracy. Like, what's going on here?
Right.
And it was Barbara Streisand. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
You know, I didn't know that, but I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, Barbara's in my room.
Wait, did she at least get out for the showing?
Well, actually, what happened was he actually invited us to Barbara Streisand's concert.
Oh, cool.
And I told my wife, do not take any photos of me here at Barbara Streisand's concert. I don't want nobody to know I'm at Barbara Streisand's concert. Right. We had so much fun. It was awesome. But it was kind of cool to be at her concert knowing that she was at the house and she was in my room. So, I mean, little stuff like that, little stories. You know, when I sold, you know, Mr. Heisinger's property on the New River.
Yep.
I've been fortunate.
That's an incredible property. What a little gem in South Florida.
It was incredible. And I've been very fortunate that to work with the Heisinger family over the years. And they're very loyal clients. I love them very much. And, you know, they trusted me with some tremendous assets. Both on the buy side and the sell side. But when I was selling Mr. Heisinger's estate after he had passed away, which is a sad time for the whole family, you know, he's the only person to start 3 Fortune 500 companies on planet Earth.
Wow.
So to be in his property and to feel that energy that was there when he owned 2 teams, when he owned the Dolphins, he owned 3 professional teams. He owned the hockey team, the baseball team, and the football team, Dolphins, Panthers, you know, and Marlins at the same time. Wow. I mean, it's just incredible. So to be in his property and to feel that energy, you know, was incredible. And after we had sold the property for the family, I was given a gift that I cherish. And in the, you know, in one of his rooms were these incredible glasses that on the bottom of were golf ball pewter golf balls where you sat the glass down with the golf ball. And so when I closed that deal, they gave them to me.
Oh, very cool.
Gave me a dozen of them. You know, they were in there and I just loved them. And they had no idea that they knew that I loved them. They said, Billy, I want to give you something. These were seniors, you know, go-tos. And I'm like, wow. So I thought to myself, how many deals were struck in that house with those pewter glasses toasting? So I cherish those. And so things like that make real estate incredibly fun and makes me incredibly passionate about it. To deliver the results, but then have to have those life experiences through those transactions.
Right.
You know, so that's great. I love them. And I have so many stories about transactions like that. We can sit here for 3 hours, but I'm sure everybody will get bored for 3 hours. But I love it.
Forget the TV series. You got to write a book. I bet you've got some fascinating things that you could spell out for people. That's incredible.
We got some cool stories.
And losing Mr. Heisinga, that wasn't what an incredible loss for their family, but a great loss for South Florida as well. I mean, he was an incredible philanthropist. He did so much for the community.
He was an amazing person. Yeah. He was an amazing person. And I had met him 10 years prior before I started working with his family. And when I got brought in to do a deal for the family first, I didn't want to tell them that I had met Senior 10 years ago. Okay. Like thinking, you know, like, oh, well, you know, you're going to, you know, I'm going to get this listing because I met your dad.
Right.
I wanted them to hire me because of me.
On your own merit, right?
On my own merit, because I was referred by an interior designer and said, I got plenty of realtors to introduce you to. And she said, but I got the guy.
Okay.
And fortunately, I was the guy. But I wanted to go in there and talk to them about what I do and what I was passionate about. And I won the business. And then later on, we had discussed, by the way, 10 years ago when I was working at Bear Stearns, Senior invited me to his office in Florida. And
okay.
So it was kind of cool, connecting the dots. But
right on. So let's pull out a crystal ball for a minute. Obviously, you know what's going on in the luxury real estate market. So where do you see that market at the end of 2024? I know in the less than luxury market that we have down here in South Florida, interest rates are playing a huge factor in how things are moving, what sort of inventory is on the market. But I'm guessing that in the luxury market, that's a little bit different. You've got a lot of cash in that market. Interest rates might not play as much into those decisions. So what do you see as the good and the bad for 2024, in your opinion?
I never use the word bad.
Okay.
I never do, right? I look at things as like, okay, like there's never a problem. There's something that we need to address that we could have the solution to. Okay. I always think that's just the way my mind thinks, right?
There's always opportunity.
There's always opportunity, right? So I look at the glass as half full, not half empty, right? And I think that the market is now, after last year, right? If anybody tells you that they were gangbusters last year and they closed 3 times more deals, I'd be a little skeptical. Business last year was different.
It was.
It was difficult.
It was an odd market.
It was an odd market because it was a market where interest rates were spiking out of control. We're coming off a COVID boom in 2022, and we stole deals from the following year. So any deals that were getting done in 23 were kind of sucked into 22. Inventory was still, there was a lack of inventory. Rates were going through the roof. And I think people took a breather. I think ultra high net worth, your average buyer, I don't mean to call somebody average, but you're under $2 million transaction buyer.
Right.
Everybody took a breather.
Because $1 million's almost the new norm, right?
Yeah, $1 million. I mean, we're in friggin', the Palm Beaches. I mean, $1.5 million is the norm. I mean, it's really crazy.
Yep.
I moved here 10 years ago, and pricing is an issue. We're boxing a lot of people out of the market. First-time home buyers. I mean, first-time home buyers got to spend $900,000 in the Palm Beaches. I mean, it's like it's wild. So I think that 2024 will be an excellent year. I mean, we started off strong with almost 49 million in new listings for the month. 5 or 6 deals, putting on the market, which is great. So I think this year will be a catch-up year from last year. I think momentum is going to kick in. I think we're going to have a busy season. I think we are back in this area, no doubt, to seasonality. I think we're going back to that gangbuster, January, February, March, April, half of May. And then in my market, people go on vacation. They're in the Hamptons. They're in the Rocky Mountains. They're in Europe, and they're just away. So they kind of take their eye off the ball. And I think that's what this market is going back to, the seasonality where we were pre-COVID, because COVID kind of faked everybody out. We were busy 12 months out of the year.
Right.
That's over. So I think that, the seasonality's back. I think business will be robust this year, no doubt. I don't think the Fed is going to be as quick as people think to lower interest rates because the economy's strong. Right. And the economy's still showing signs of being very strong. So long as we start to see inflation numbers to come down, which they are, we're going into an election year. That's going to be, on people's minds. But at the end of the day, people love Florida.
Yeah, the election year is always that dark horse that you never know what's going to happen with any market during an election.
And that could be the thing that we could say, quote unquote, bad.
Okay.
We don't know what that outcome is going to be.
Right.
We don't know what we're going to see around the country from a protest standpoint. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we never know what the reaction is going to be.
That's kind of the, what I call a black swan.
Right.
I don't know if anybody knows what a black swan is, but it's an event that we can't predict. We don't know. It's never happened in the past. So you always have that potentiality of a black swan. 9/11 was a black swan. We can never figure that out, right? So there could always be that, out there somewhere. But from my standpoint, I'm super positive. I think 2024 is going to be a great year. I think everybody needs to stay focused, double down on their marketing, network, get a mentor, and just get out there and do business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And one thing that I'm glad that you had mentioned was, and I see this from a lot of my agents as well. They look at their numbers rounding out 2023 and they compare it to what they did in 2022. And they start getting freaked out. And I've got to sit down with them and say, you really need to be comparing the numbers that you're looking at in 2023 to what you did in 2018. Because what happened in 2019, obviously the market slowed down, COVID, nobody was leaving their house, but then all of a sudden it picked up and we had the best years ever. If you were a realtor throughout the pandemic, the business was incredible. A lot of people that were remote workers were moving down to Florida. They didn't have to stay in the cold anymore. And with those artificially deflated interest rates, that was a major driver to the economy. And it was a major driver for people who were buying homes and people who were buying automobiles. And I think if you look at your numbers and compare them to what you did in 2018, you're going to have a much more realistic gauge on how you're actually doing. Prices have come up. You're still doing, a ton of transactions. You're just not doing the numbers that you did in 2022. And we may never see those numbers come back like that.
And here's something that I'd like to say to the 42,000 members of the Palm Beaches, the association, that we're here for. You have such an amazing opportunity right now to create that value add proposition.
Right.
Because in 2022, you didn't have to really have too much value add. You get a listing, you had 10 people that wanted to buy it in an hour. Right. The order takers. It was easy. Get your license, and you were guaranteed you're going to do some business. It was nuts. Now you can really create your personal brand, show your value, because the consumer is going to be more selective on who they do business with, because they want somebody to dig in the trenches for them. They want somebody to look through the weeds, make offers, negotiate on your behalf. Right. So I think the business and the horizon looking out is super, super exciting for realtors, not only here in South Florida, but around the country.
Yeah, now is really the time to get your marketing plan together, get your listing package together. And now that we're moving into a world where there's going to be a lot more buyer brokerage agreements, hopefully people are going to start using them. You really need to have a buyer presentation as well. 100%. This is what I'm going to do 100%. For you. And this is how I'm going to find you the perfect property.
And if anybody listening to this podcast thinks that a buyer wants to run around without you, it's not going to happen. They need us, right? They need us. And that's something that there's this fog in the marketplace right now, because the things that are happening around the country with these big lawsuits, and I can't comment on those things, but we are more valuable than we ever could be right now at this second. And you got to think like that, because it's the truth.
It is.
And you can go out there and you can build your business and you can build your brand, and that buyer will know that and they'll appreciate what you do. They need us.
Absolutely.
Don't ever forget it. They need us.
Absolutely. Do you use artificial intelligence in any of your marketing?
It's interesting. I was speaking at a national conference for luxury portfolio, and I was speaking in front of a couple thousand agents, and I said, this is about a year and a half ago, I said, AI. AI to me means all in, right? Okay. I don't use artificial intelligence. To me, AI means all in. My business, I am all in. However, in the last year and a half, I don't use it to write I write all my listing descriptions because I love the creativity of it.
Sure.
But I do have I like asking it some questions sometimes lately because it's kind of entertaining to me. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff, but as far as my business and using AI to generate leads or, anything like that, I just don't use it. I mean, I don't. And it's just the truth. I love to write my own listing descriptions.
Right.
It's just what I enjoy. So I really haven't dove into the AI. I've always said AI to me is all in. So that's what I think of when I hear AI.
So you're kicking it old school and writing your own listing descriptions.
Yeah, I love it. It's fun for me.
Focusing on those relationships. Okay. Some of our members may be thinking about starting their own podcast. You obviously have your own podcast.
Yes.
Hopefully people have tuned in. You've got quite a few episodes. How's that helped you grow personally and professionally? And where do you get inspired for your content?
So I was told that my podcast is number 6 in the country for luxury real estate.
Awesome.
But I think there's only 6 of them, so that doesn't... I'm only kidding. But I was told it was number 6. So it's definitely getting listeners.
Okay.
And I do get messages from agents all over the United States, including Hawaii. I mean, I just got one yesterday, so to me, it's personal inspiration, right?
Okay.
It doesn't, I don't know if clients are listening to it. I don't know if someone that wants to buy a house is listening to it because you don't know who your audience is. But I like to put good karma into the universe, right? To me, that is fun, right? Because if you do right by your community, you do right by your fellow agents, good things happen, and that's the way I think about my podcast. It gets me fired up when I do it. Right. I get all excited, I get all fired up about it. It's unscripted. Every once in a while I have a guest because people seem to like just hear me get on there and just ramble on about things that I'm working on, right? Because that's the real deal. I'm not, there's not sugarcoating anything. If people, you listen to Billy Nash, luxury real estate with Billy Nash on Spotify, Apple, we're dropping one in a couple of days. And I talked about January as your springboard, right? January sets yourself up for the rest of the year.
Right.
So those are the things I just kind of talk about things that inspire me. And then when it inspires others, it makes me feel good. It doesn't mean that I'm making money from it. And so, I don't know, it's just something that I enjoy. I pay for it myself. And I just love getting those messages from other agents around the country and throughout South Florida that say, man, you really inspired me today. That to me is very satisfying.
Awesome. Well, I was just going to say we just came out of business planning season, but I don't think there's ever really a time to not be doing some sort of business planning. When is it that you get your business plan underway for the future year?
You know what? My business plan starts every morning at 4 a.m.
Good, when you're unemployed.
4 a.m. No. My 4. Yeah, well, 4 a.m. is I get up at 4 a.m. every day. 4 o'clock, 4:30. But my plan starts in the morning. And then I kind of figure out what I'm doing for the day. And I said this on a podcast, and don't take this like I don't set goals, right? If you're doing the right thing and you're totally focused, the good things will happen. Right? So don't set yourself up for some unrealistic goal and then you don't hit it and then you feel disappointed, right? Of course you got to have goals, but what I do is I just kind of stay the course.
Okay.
Right? Stay the course. And by staying the course, after selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, I must be doing something right. So I'm not trying to change the formula. I'm just going to stick to doing what I do, helping other agents, being loyal to clients, being involved in the community, and just what I do.
That's awesome to hear. It's always so interesting to hear the different guests that we have because I was talking to somebody that said, set yourself goals that you think are unattainable and then work backwards on how to actually get there. And you've got sort of an opposite mantra that is just make sure that you're setting goals that you know how to obtain and be consistent with it every single day and don't give up.
I'm an opposite kind of guy.
Okay. Hey, you know what? If everybody was the same, this world would be hella boring. Okay, so I know that you're a busy guy. Obviously, got to get back to selling some more real estate. So we ask this question of every guest that we have. Tell us about a little South Florida gem, something that the viewers and the listeners might not know about, but something that you absolutely love about living in South Florida.
It's interesting. I pretty much love everything about living in South Florida. I don't miss New Jersey. When I see it in pictures.
Sorry, New Jersey.
Yeah, sorry, New Jersey. I mean, I miss it, but I don't miss it. Working in New York City, I miss it, but I don't miss it. But there's so many gems. It's hard to pinpoint one. But if I can give you one gem, I sold the largest ranch in the state of Florida 2 years ago.
Okay.
Called Quail Creek. It was upwards to 4,000 acres. I never sold a ranch before. And when I came into town, there was a new sheriff in town.
Okay.
And the agents that are up there that sell ranches were like, this guy doesn't know anything about ranches, but I know how to sell. Right. And I'm like a chameleon. So I absorbed everything I could about this property. Like I was given a wonderful opportunity and I sold it. But by spending time in Quail Creek up in Okeechobee, I really got to see the old school Florida environment. There were panthers and gators and it was incredible. So it was just an amazing experience. And to be out there with the wild hogs and all this stuff. I was like City Slickers, like the movie.
Right.
So of course I bought all my gear. And, I was able to show the property. It took about 6-7 hours to show it. And I ended up selling it to an amazing entrepreneur, billionaire. And when he flew in with his helicopter to look at it, he jumped out of the chopper and I thought it was his pilot. He was actually flying it himself. And he said, let's get it on. I said, let's go.
Okay.
And he ended up buying it. But that is a gem to me. And one of the things I loved about the property was the history. So at Quail Creek, there's a stream that runs through it, and it's got a historical significance. So there's something called the Cracker Trail from the 1800s, and that's where the cowboys cracked the whip to the cattle that they would move from Sarasota across the state of Florida to board ferry ships, steamships, to take the cattle down to the Florida Keys and to the Bahamas. I thought that was so cool.
That's incredible.
So the cattle would stop at this stream and drink, and then they would drive the cattle through the stream that ran through Quail Creek.
Okay.
So I think that kind of historical stuff, I thought that was an amazing gem. It's old Florida, the mossy trees, the steam in the morning. So it was awesome. We think of Florida, we think of blue water, palm trees, Worth Avenue.
Yeah.
But man, I rolled up my
It's the
sleeve.
backcountry.
Listen, I got deep and dirty. There was actually Indian burial grounds there, which was amazing. And the owner warned me, don't go anywhere near those mounds. And I said, why? He said, those are Indian burial grounds.
Yep.
And that is not the place to go. And
No.
you respect those things and you don't
your
go
distance.
anywhere near it. So there was just so many cool things about that hidden. It was not a hidden gem, but it was a gem to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really realize, how much history was out there.
So
it's really cool.
What is Quail Creek today?
So it's still Quail Creek. It's now Quail Creek Shooting a Lodge.
Okay.
It's a private membership, and there's about 60 members. But also, it's open to the public. There is a skeet shooting.
Okay.
So it's awesome. Anybody can go. It's open to the public. It's awesome.
Very
They
cool.
actually have a Jack Links. Now Jack Links shooting Jack Links Open, which is some of the best shooters from all over the world, come in February, and it's a 3-day event. If anybody wants to learn more about it, just go to Quail Creek and you'll see about the Jack Links beef jerky open. And there's hundreds of shooters. Anybody can enter, and it's super, super, super fun. I mean, these guys don't miss.
That's that's incredible. I actually like to shoot myself, so that's something now that I have to check out that I've
You
not
should
been.
totally go. It's an awesome, awesome place.
Very cool. Well, Billy Nash, thank you very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
And for you guys, we will see you right back here next time on RWorld Talk.